You've coached more than 700 salons worldwide, which is an insane volume. What do you think is the one mistake you see happen the most, like over and over again, that's holding salon owners back?
It's thinking that they made a mistake. There's only lessons. Perspective is everything. Typically, people are spending too much time in an ego-driven thought process, beating themselves up over it. Your business doesn't care how you feel. Your business needs you to learn a lesson and pivot immediately. Salon owners create something from a vision that they have, and then they just let the busyness get in the way. They become very situational, reactive in their thinking. It all boils down to shifting your thinking.
Welcome to Brazen and Bold. Today, we're diving into what it takes to really run a profitable, people-first business with one of the industry's most respected coaches, a best-selling author, and a NAHA Educator of the Year finalist. So lots of amazing credentials behind his name. Thank you so much for joining me today, Steve.
I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Heather. It's really cool. Thanks for doing what you do and creating a platform for people to get out of the crazy, busy swirl and stop and think and reflect. And I think that's what makes podcasts across any type of industry or any aspect of life important, because it allows us to use these types of mediums for the good. So I'm glad you're using the medium for the good.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
I've been on the road plenty this year, and you've had a crazy first couple of months of this year. And so you're joining me remote on the road. You mentioned as we were getting ready to record that it'd be 9 out of 10 weeks out of town on the road. So thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me and to share with our listeners what you have going on. What are you on the road for so much these days?
As an educator, really, we're almost done with the first half of the ye's show schedule. I mean, it kind of culminates in Orlando, really, with the premiere show. I'll be there in a few weeks.
Wow.
But I've been doing a series of site visits with clients, which has me be up here in the northern LA area, even though it's, it's with no traffic, it's an hour from my house, but with LA traffic, it's about 2 hours. So that's why we're hotel bound. But I was just in St. George earlier this week. I was out in Utah.
Beautiful.
Before that, out in Philly, I did a 2-day finance workshop based on my book, Financial Fitness. Before that, I was in Neosho, Missouri with a client. I was in Philly before that with Sam Villa. He and I did an event together called The Service Cycle. It's my third book that I'm working on. And it's coming out later this year. So we wanted to collaborate for years and years, and we finally got a chance to do that and have really a collision of consultative psychology, guest service psychology and systems and technique all at once. It was a really neat amalgam. So, I'm just having fun doing what I do, being on the road, serving, supporting, and helping people. They're my favorite days. I love being with people. This medium of technology, like we just talked about a second ago, is awesome. But to me, especially in the salon and spa industry, in our industry, you just can't replace, the hug and the handshake and the hello and the networking and just being live.
Yeah,
we
I
all
love
thrive off of it still. Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, I'm in town. I was in town Mother's Day weekend only for the month of May. So that was the only weekend I'll be in town. And I am so sad this year to be missing premiere. We were there last year. Yeah, no, I know. As you said, you're like, and it's basically the culmination of all. And I'm like, and I will not be there. I am very sad. But
well, thanks for having me. It was good being on here. We'll see you later.
Oh, he's gone. If I could clone myself, I'm the queen of delegation, right? But if I could clone myself, I'd be in 2 places at once. But yet to
Amen.
know how to do that. So I had to choose. Going to go to a wedding instead.
Amen. Hey, love always wins. That's awesome.
People are still doing that stuff. People are still getting married. What? Anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm sad to miss premiere, but I'm sure you've got some amazing things there. You've coached more than 700 salons worldwide, which is an insane volume. What I would love to know, like, if you can kind of distill it into, like, what do you think is the one mistake you see happen the most, like over and over again, that's holding salon owners back?
It's thinking that they made a mistake. That's really it to me. There's only lessons. Perspective is perspective is everything. So if you realize that something happened that is not serving you, not serving the culture, not serving the business, typically people are spending too much time in an ego-driven thought process, beating themselves up over it. And to me, your business doesn't care how you feel. Your business needs you to learn a lesson and pivot immediately. Your business is like the chicken in the nest saying, feed me, feed me, feed me. So it doesn't matter what the weather conditions are. You got to take off and soar and fly and get the worm and bring it back to the chick and keep it fed. That's your business. Salon owners create something from a vision that they have. They're very entrepreneurial and aggressive. They make it aesthetically look beautiful. And then they just let the busyness get in the way. They become very situational, reactive in their thinking. So it all boils down to me to shifting your thinking. And the first step in shifting your thinking is to realize you need to give yourself and the business more time to be more reflective. I wrote a book called Interdependent Leadership, Creating a Salon Culture of Inclusive Growth. And I make the case for self-reflective work the first third of the book. People have to get out of their own way. And when you're allowing the schedule, when you're allowing the stimuli to get in the way and you slowly begin to let go of dictating the course and the direction, then you work in a very reactive way as opposed to being proactive and thoughtful and reflective. So to me, what I commit to do, I don't try to do what I commit to do. If you work with me, we're not hoping to maybe try. We're living in a world of by when we're going to make it happen. So if you own a salon and I'm working with you, in the first 90 days, I'm getting you to work 1 day less, and then another 90 days, 2 days less behind the chair. If you're already working less behind the chair, then I'm looking at where are you spending your time? Are you taking the time away from working behind the chair, but now you're just being a busy bee, running around, putting fires out, doing supply runs, doing all these types of work to keep the business operating on a daily, weekly, monthly, but not carving out time to become thoughtful and reflective, first and foremost, about yourself. Secondly, about where the business is at. And that's becoming more data driven and looking at what the business is communicating to you through the data so that you can see things that are occurring ahead of them happening, and really attacking them and becoming more thoughtful about your most precious resource, the human ones. Giving your team more time. Most owners aren't accessible enough because of the busy swirl. So becoming more accessible to the team and what they need, becoming more accessible to the business and what it needs, becoming more thoughtful about where you're taking it. I pride myself on leading people from managing in the here and now to slowly and methodically and systematically and perceptually over time being a year ahead of where everybody else is in their thinking, at least a year, if not more. So to me, it starts with perception, and the way to become more thoughtful and present is to realize that you have to shift where you spend your time. And it's a discipline, and you got to get uncomfortable around all of that. If you're unwilling to do that, I'm not right for you. And good luck staying stuck in your swirl, and I'll play the violin for you. But let's not waste any time because people are trusting you with their livelihood.
Wow. Well, this has been a great episode. He has said everything anyone who owns a business has ever needed to hear. And that's a wrap. We got that in 8 minutes. Bam. I mean, Brother Stephen, preach.
I
Oh,
love
it's true. I mean, can we get an amen, a hallelujah? Can I also like crawl under my desk in shame, even though my entire passion in life's work is built around helping people with strategic delegation and learning systems and processes as a creative with grasshopper ADHD brain? I'm like, it's the only way I've been able to survive and thrive at the level of my life that I'm at. But I'm thinking, even still, I'm like, oh, I feel like he just hit me with a 2x4. Okay. Okay. I got the message loud and clear. Okay. So I might be the only one who feels personally called out, even though my entire goal in life is to do what you're talking about. But if this resonates with any listener, you're not alone. And you can either take that. I love that number one problem challenge you see salon owners holding them back is the way they think about, did I make a mistake versus I have an opportunity I've learned. So You can either sink with the ship and we'll play the violin for you, or
Mhm.
we can pivot and we can start thinking strategically. I freaking love that. I think it actually comes, especially, what should I say? I think it's really easy to hear from someone like yourself because you have built and lost and rebuilt
Mhm.
business. And I think a lot of times, if you look at the big picture of who you are and your bio, and Stephen is very important, folks. Steve is an important man. This Steve Gomez is something, and you wouldn't be nominated for that NAHA Lifetime Achievement Award, et cetera, unless you had gone through what you'd gone through and applied it and kept going. It's the part that a lot of people don't like to talk about. If you're comfortable sharing, tell us what it's like to lose something completely and to figure out how to pick up and rebuild it. Because I think that's where most people, they're like, that's it, I've screwed it up. Or, oh my gosh, I just found out my business is tanking. It's this amount.
Sure, sure.
What, how do you come back from that?
Well, I want to circle around to something that you had just said based on the first question you asked me and just make one more point about it. When you realize that and it's kind of a great lead into what I'm about to answer, but it's you got to give yourself grace and you got to be patient. None of us are perfect, and we're going to we're going to make what we call mistakes that I like to call learning lessons if you're conscious to it. But if you're too busy beating yourself up and making yourself wrong, then you're spending too much time in a place that doesn't really serve where you are. You know, Everything's finite. Life is finite, begin date, end date. Relationships are finite, begin date, end date. Running a business, begin date, end date, whether you've lost it and have to rebuild like I went through, or whether you are retiring or just choosing to move in a different direction and you want to pivot from a values heart forward place. It's time to move in a different direction. Who knows the reasons behind it? Listen and pivot. I was given some great coaching, Heather, that we've got three brains to think with: the dangerous neighborhood up here, our heart, which we don't follow enough, and our gut, that we're an instinct that we're not trusting enough. We're spending way too much time up here and thinking, that this is reality. It is a reality that we're choosing. This is a muscle like this one. Are we working it? I had to learn that. I ran my business into bankruptcy because I wasn't good at managing money. In a lot of ways, I still am challenged with that, and have to watch and have to pivot, uh, because it's just an ingrained way of being. So the key is being aware of your strengths and continuing to focus on accentuating them, and also looking at where your challenges are and leaning in and getting more disciplined to get better at them. Life is a process. Doesn't matter what era you're in, there's always going to be something there for you to have to navigate. There's going to be heavy times. There's going to be, it's funny. I kind of see, I've seen, at least my life has had these 6 to 8 year cycles of kick ass and 6 to 8 year cycles of, okay, fool, here, let's throw this at you. How you going to do? Are you going to do with this?
You
How
thought
you going
you
to do
were you thought you were
it? Right.
so different. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, no. Yeah. So, there's always going to be that. I was a kid that barely got past algebra in high school, wasn't good at the math. I avoided all that to my detriment. I was told by my stepfather that, you're not as smart as your brother who's on his way to med school. I'm glad you got the busboy job. That's all you'll ever be. I bought into it, but it created I'll show you. That's not really the words that came to my mind in that moment, but
I
I'll
didn't
be a
ask.
good boy.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I'll be a good boy. I'll stay out of the cuss bubble today. But
It's a family show.
it really created a work ethic in me. I told myself I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'll be the hardest working. I'll be the first one there. I'll be the last one to leave. I'm going to out hustle everybody. I'm going to have to work hard because that's the only way I'm going to get to where I want to go in life. So I developed a great work ethic, but it was to cover up something that I thought was lacking in myself. So that was the first domino that I learned when I found my coach, when I lost everything. Um, uh, when I ran the business into bankruptcy and was couch surfing at my mom's and my brother's again after 8 years of hard work, was okay. I could either walk away from this and feel like a failure the rest of my life and tell me that tell myself that's who I am, or I can get to work and start learning the shit that I need to learn. Like, what do I need to learn, right? One of my favorite sayings is shit happens, but to me, and a lot of people live over there, I believe that shift happens. You just got to put the F between the I and the T and shift that shit, right? So shift happens. So I had to shift my thinking. And that was the first thing that my coach helped me realize, that I was smart enough to learn the world of salon and spa finance. I was smart enough to not only learn it, but scale the right way, which is what I ended up doing, and paying off all the debts and rebuilding credit over time, and doing all the things that put my life into a better place. And I became very passionate about helping people based on what I had went through. Because I can relate, to where so many salon and spa owners are, because I've been there myself. When we try to say people need change, to me, it's realizing that those mechanisms in you are always going to be there. You just need to be aware, and when it shows up, make the choice to not. It's just being more disciplined, awareness and discipline, awareness and discipline. So while I teach people how to be financially organized and how to get their P&L industry specific, and helping them understand that, what makes our industry so unique is that we're multiple income streams under one roof, and each of them need to get individualized attention, systems that are specific to that income stream, managing the expenses that are specific to that income stream, understanding the brand languaging that you should create for that income stream. Where are they mingling with other income streams? All the different things to really accentuate the different businesses that are operating under one roof inside of a salon or spa. And you've got to do all that stuff, and you got to put the systems in place, and you have to learn how to ask questions and engage your team and bring them over to your way of thinking and vision, so that there's collaboration, not collision. All those things are important, but it really comes from, as a leader, am I aware of where I am, how I'm relating to things, therefore how I'm leading. A lot of people point the finger at the situation or the people, as opposed to realizing that if I'm the leader of the business, everything great in the business boils down to and comes back to decisions that I'm making and how I'm leading. Everything that's not working well boils down to and comes back to how I'm leading or not. So I have to always start with myself and look in the mirror. And I pride myself on creating a safe place for owners to do that, so that they can let go of beating themselves up and feeling bad about what's occurring, and let go of that regret and redirect that into the lesson, and then take that energy and redirect that into doing something different, so that there is not only a shift up here, but there's a substantive, transformative, tangible shift in the business itself. Then we have somebody who's wiser, who's gone through a maturation process, and who is stronger and more confident. And to me, that's the biggest payoff. Making more money is great, right? Having all the things, great. The nicer cars, the bills paid off, great. But it's, to me, the biggest payoff is watching that person, that human being grow, that person become more confident, more self-assured in where they are at in their life, and that they've made the right choices and they've gone through those fires.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And we cannot attract at a level greater than what we believe we are deserving of. So if I've got a container, I'm here to collect the gifts that are dropping from the sky, and I think I'm just going to grab this little teeny cup because I don't think I'm really worth a whole lot more. Well, that's all I'm going to be able to get. But if I think as big and as expansive as possible, I can gather so much more, grow so much more. It wouldn't matter if someone was making all the money and had everything that looked on a checklist to be success. If they didn't have that growth in their own mind, their own capacity, their own soul to receive it, they won't keep it. And even if it's in their life, they won't feel the value or even maybe the contentment that comes with that type of achievement if the thinking problem hasn't been addressed. And I think that's a lot of people speak about metrics and numbers, which are critical, absolutely, and very boring, by the way, super, super not sexy. As I like to tell people, it's very, very unsexy to have to look at spreadsheets and numbers.
I'll
But
fight you on that one. Spreadsheets are sexy. Spreadsheets freaking rock.
I'm going to
I
arm
will.
wrestle on it and I will win. But what I will say, which maybe will keep us from getting in that fist fight when we meet in person finally. At the flagpole at noon, we're
Yeah.
gonna this they are sexy, but what they can do for you is very sexy. And so they're a necessary stepping stone. I would say kind of like sweating it out at the gym is not that sexy. But
Yeah.
yeah, those cap delts in the tank top are. So
Yeah.
so go
Yeah.
do the work, okay? Put the reps in, and the numbers are part of the reps. But all the day long you can do that. But if you don't realize like what you have, sit in gratitude, open your mind, and be able to
Yeah.
receive it, you can't keep it. So that
Amen.
is huge, huge, huge. Um, Man, it's a humbling thing probably to go from building something and then sleeping on your brother's couch and your mom's couch and trying to rebuild it. But to be able to go through that, I would say, the story would be a lot less impressive and a lot less interesting if it's like, well, everything kind of came to me easily. And I also have a trust fund, so I'm fine. And I could fail all I wanted, like slow clap for you. We're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
and so it's a lot more interesting to know, like, hey, folks, if you're listening and you're like, well, what does he know? He's successful and nominated and all these things, and you've got your best-selling author, and you're important. What do you know about what I'm actually going through? Well, quite frankly, a lot. And I think that's something that makes the impact of your work and what you do a lot better. Listen, if you were an accountant who loved numbers your whole life and you wrote a book about financial fitness, I'd be like, well, easy for you to do. Your brain works that way. I like even more so the fact that you suck at math and your brain didn't work that way. I also think, you talked about like discipline and consistency and all that. It does matter. But I think a lot of times too, like learning what we suck at and just getting the right people in place to guide us and removing the obstacles. If you know that your tendency is to overspend, your salon director is the one who gets to make the choices on the purchases. You have to ask, like, get yourself out of your own way. I think a lot of people I know who have a lot of money come in and out of their lives, high volume, not a lot of savings. They tend to, my friends who are in that position, especially the business owners, entrepreneurs, they tend to feel shame. And they feel shame because I brought $1 million into my business this year and I'm 50,000 in debt. Like, what is wrong with me? And I think rather than feeling shame, maybe getting resources for people who are better at it than you are and trusting them. And it's like it's getting a sponsor if you have an addiction for the love. Like, don't be ashamed that this is your struggle. Don't be ashamed if you're bad at numbers, math, or finances.
Yeah.
Find a mentor and find someone who can
Amen.
an accountability partner because problems thrive in a vacuum of shame. So I think this is great. And the fact that this is what you have taken from your down moment to uplift others is super powerful. Was there a defining moment that really shaped your philosophy on business and leadership through this whole process?
Working with my coach. Really, it was just working with my coach, and then the company that I hired, they ended up hiring me. So then I was surrounded by a team of coaches.
Yeah.
And if I thought the real work began when I was being coached, the real work really began when I was learning how to become a coach. I thought, when I moved out to California and joined them, I thought, yeah, I'm going to be this coach. Yeah, they didn't give me a client for the first 18 months. I didn't get to speak in front of the room for the first 2 years.
No.
And I had to earn every inch of that battle. They were committed that I was walking what I was talking, and that I was authentic and I was honest about what I had been through, and that that the belief that was inside of me was being matched by the actions that I was taking consistently. And yes, yeah, and I still work hard at that to this day. And struggle in areas and kick ass in others, and like any other human, you know, we're all, you know, it's just the truth, right? It's just the truth of it. Um, let's get real or let's not play, is one of my favorite books I read on sales. But I love the quote itself, which is the title of the book by Mahan Kausal. Let's get real or let's not play. And he says, how you serve creates how you sell. And that man, that when I read that quote, I mean, it's like one sentence. What a declaration. How you serve creates how you sell. So I think you can see people in the industry that are trying. Like, I respect anybody that wants to get out there and have their voice heard. It's courageous, right? Uh, and then you can see the ones that really love the sound of their voice versus the ones that really give a shit about making a difference for people. And I work very hard to ensure that I'm coming from my heart. I'm authentic because I love what I do, which is a very me driven thing. I love what I do, and I better love what I do because the work I'm in is supporting people. Uh, I'm here to create a safe place so that people can look at themselves in areas that are super important and very vulnerable and challenging and get them from feeling the way they are now as quickly as I possibly can over to being in a different place so that then they can really start to do the work. Because if you're just wanting to do the work, thinking that's going to get you somewhere, it'll get you a couple steps forward. But if we haven't shifted the thinking, it's going to be a few steps back. And, I would say in this era that I'm in right now, I was diagnosed and thankfully beat pancreatic cancer in 2022. That was a huge defining moment for me. And I remember being diagnosed on May 7th of 22, and when you go through this type of stuff, you remember dates. Uh, and I'm glad that my wife was out that day. I was home. I didn't see her for another 4 hours that day. I got to absorb the initial, diagnosis on my own and have my own moment around it. And I woke up the next day and I said, okay, not only am I beating the shit out of this, but we're going to have our biggest and best year in company history, which is exactly what we did. And I went through 5 procedures, massive surgery, died on the operating table. I went through it all, tubes sticking out of the side of my stomach, craziness. But my mindset was I'm going to surround myself with a little nucleus of people that I trust, that when I need those moments, I'm going to talk to them. And I'm going to put in place reading things every morning that get myself grounded and values based, because I teach people how to be values based versus situational. And that was a massive defining moment for me that did 2 things. I had to practice what I was preaching to people. And what I would do when I went in for every procedure where I was being put under and they were going in and doing their things was I would fist pump the person, like everybody from the admissions nurse to everybody in the operating room. And I would say, I got me, you got you, let's rock. And I would look them in the eye. And like on my major surgery, they had 13 people in that room. And I wouldn't let them start until I did that. And then when I had my JP drain pulled out, my main surgeon said, "Do you remember what you did that morning?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I did the fist pump with all you guys." "You remember that?" I said, "Yeah." She's like, "We just thought it was the pre-drugs." I said, "No, no, no. This was this was this was me focusing on what I could control. I have major anxiety, but it was me redirecting my anxiety, and by giving you a fist pump and looking you in the eye and saying, I got me, you got you, I'm doing something positive. I'm getting my energy out and I'm creating my team around me and I'm getting you subconsciously to fight harder for me. I didn't want to be one of the 6 surgeries you had on the day. I wanted you guys to lean in a little bit more." And then they said, "Do you remember the last thing you said?" She said, Dr. Choi said to me, she's like, "Do you remember the last thing you said as we were putting you under?" I said, "Yeah, when I felt the tingles going up my neck, I said, I love my Nancy." It's my wife's name. Because if I'm dying, I want the last thing I ever say is the declaration of love for the person who's the most important human in my world. And literally, they start the surgery, and within a minute, I flatlined, and they had to paddle me back and bring me back. But we can either be our circumstances or we can be our values, and that was a defining moment for me. And since then, as a coach and as an educator, I am more urgent. I suffer less bullshit from people. I'm very quick to call people's stories out faster and with more empathy and compassion. But let's get right to it. I get more real faster with people because because Yeah, because we don't have time. And, the crazy thing is in 2020, 2 years before that, I'm a guy as a coach that people will find me. And only this is usually 2 or 3 times a year it happens where somebody has to liquidate. They run out of money, options, the business is closing. They're shitty conversations, Heather. I hate having them, but I will show up for somebody every single time to do it. I don't charge them for it. At their sad moments, the dream is the candle is out, right? But I'll always be there for that. And during COVID in 2020, those first 9 months of COVID, I had to do it 78 times. And that shifted my whole life. That was a soul crushing era. And it was nonstop, where I was in those conversations or being up at 4 to be on a Zoom or a podcast over in Europe in different countries, and then moving East Coast all the way throughout the day, and then peppering those conversations while triaging my own clients, while triaging our own life. Uh, that was a defining moment. And that made me become more urgent. So, and I'll tell audiences, I don't always share my cancer story every time, but I definitely talk about, I know 78 people that would love to have your problem. So get over your shit and let's get busy and start working, you know?
Hey, business owners. Yes, you. I know you're juggling it all: marketing, admin tasks, websites, podcasts, social media. The list never ends. That's where Spark comes in. We're a virtual assistant company built just for small business owners, because once you're able to delegate, we know you'll be able to dominate. Our clients are seeing up to 30% increase in social media engagement and sales, all by letting us handle the behind the scenes work. Not to mention an incredible boost in flexibility, profit, and time. So scan the QR code right now to schedule a free chat with my team. Let's make you efficient AF and help you focus on what you do best: growing and leading your business.
Seriously.
It's like I died once, so I got nothing to lose. I mean, let me be honest with you. There is
Yeah.
something about, and thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that that's incredibly impactful. Not only losing everything, but then also literally flatlining and dying. Like, you've lost everything financially, you've flatlined physically in this life. At some point, it kind of makes you on F with the ball. Like, come
Yeah.
at me. Like, okay, come at me. And yeah, I know 78 people who would love to have the problem you're having right now in your leadership or your team or whatever else. And I think that's incredible. Also, when you're talking about the fist bump, I got me, you got you, that whole thing. That really sounds like a ritual, and thank you for opening about the piece of feeling anxiety, and whether it was just in that moment or that it's in general that you experience anxiety. I also do. And
Uh-huh.
not anymore, but I've made close friends with the anxiety experience. And I think a ritual around mindset, as you mentioned, like your morning practice, reading things that were going to keep you grounded and rooted in your values, that's everything, because you can lose everything, including your life. And if you stay rooted in your values, well, we're all going to die. I hate to be the morbid one here, but hey, they pay me great money to say the nice things everybody wants to hear. And that's, we're all going to die. This is not a permit. There's a start date and an end date, like you said. And so what are you going to do with the space in between? And what are you going to do with the space in between here, in the walls of your brain? My dad would always say, you have no control over anything except for the gray matter between your skulls. So like, what are you going to
Yes.
do about it? And so setting that mindset ritual, giving yourself the commitment and promise to shift that. I mean, you've lived it in multiple stages and ways, to where I think that gives you such a greater impact as a leader and a coach with the people you're working with. That's incredible. With the people you moved out to California to coach with, were they industry specific, or was this
Yeah.
okay, so this was salon
They were
industry.
industry specific, and then they sold their company to Milady, and I worked with Milady for about 8 years as a writer and subject matter expert. I was still doing trainings, but a lot less frequently. And
Uh-huh.
then they laid me off in 2016, and I saw the writing on the wall in late 2015, and I knew that I could leave early, or their mo was they would give you a severance. So I got a 6 month severance. So I immediately started writing my first book and building the website. And I couldn't go out and do trainings or anything in that time period, but I was just working behind the scenes to launch. I
Yeah.
I I, I felt that I was ready, and uh, I had the legacy of the message and the systems that helped me and that I worked as a part of. But it was time for me to expand and add to it, and bring my own voice and bring my own things. I've been having a lot of fun doing that for the last 10 years, and I'll keep doing it until I drop. I love serving our industry and helping people. It's my passion. It's a life path for me. It's not a job, and I, I, I just have such a good time helping people and watching the popcorn pop, and watching people shift and then act upon it. And that's the key thing. Anybody can come to my classes like, oh, I'll be teaching 6 classes at the premiere show. 7 actually this year. Come to my classes, right? Great, good for you. But 20% of the people are really ready and are going to do something. The other 80 are going to be motivated and woohoo, and motivation wears off the minute you walk out of the convention center in Orlando and it's 95 degrees and 100% humidity. Motivation's gone.
Yeah.
So you have to shift. You have to constantly be looking at where you want to get better, and you got to get uncomfortable to get there, and I think one of the things that owners forget, when we're talking about relationships being finite and life being finite, is that people aren't going to stay with you forever. And it could be that they were with you day one, and then you sell and retire, and they were with you all the way to the end of that, right? Or it could be they were with you for 2 months, 2 years, 10 years. But relationships are finite, and so many owners take it so personally when somebody chooses to move on in a different direction. And I have 2 thoughts for any owner who might be listening to this related to that. Guess what? You left, you went on your own and did your own thing. So get over your ego and get over yourself,
You didn't start off as
right?
being a salon owner. You started off
Yeah.
as a salon.
You were, yeah, number one. And number two, everybody has every right to make a decision in their life that they feel is going to benefit them. Whether you believe it's going to benefit them or not, and maybe you have more wisdom in life lived and you believe that what they're about to do is going to maybe set them back in their career, you can share that wisdom, but you can't control that choice. So respect the choice that was being made, just like when you made one. And what if your goal is not to keep people? What if your goal is to help people become the best version of themselves and to touch them on their life journey as long as they choose you? That should be the goal. And I think when any owner comes from that place, they keep people a hell of a lot longer.
Totally. Why wouldn't we, no matter if we're as colleagues, friends, salon owners, leaders, why would we want anything but what is best for someone else? And I can't pretend to know that I even know what's best for me. We were speaking about surrendering to the flow of life before we recorded.
Yeah.
Love to think that I have all the best ideas for my life and how it should go. And I wish everybody could get on the same page and do it exactly as I think it should be done. And
Yeah.
yet, the more I've
Amen.
had my ass handed to me, which is very regularly, I'm getting incredibly comfortable with getting my ass handed to me. It's actually a delight at this point. The more that's happened, I'm still in my own way too much. I'd like to pretend that I have actually conquered that, but I haven't. But the more that happens, the more the more wonderful things get. And now the more that
Mm,
I surrendered into that, the better it's gotten. So why would I want for anyone that I ever interact with in any capacity besides the absolute best for them? And how can I pretend to know that if I don't even
yeah,
really know that for myself? I
for
would like
real.
to live my own way and get out of other people's way. And I think something I've said, and this is more regarding parenting, but also maybe in just association with friendships. I haven't thought about it as a leader yet. Though my goal in life, one of my biggest goals in life is that anybody that I touch knows that they are loved unconditionally and that they are more
Hmm.
them as a result of our meeting. If you, as long as the you that I'm talking about is not a jerk, but like if you're quiet, be more quiet and comfortable in your quiet. And if you're outlandish, be the most outlandish you can be around me, whatever it is. And I say that in our salon space, I purchased a salon that was in a very conservative pocket of town, very, very conservative religious area. And I thought, well, just because I'm a little bit socially progressive and very queer forward doesn't mean that I want people who are very conservative religiously to come into my space and feel alienated. I actually want people to feel loved and safe coming as they are, as long as they're respectful to others in the space. Um,
Amen.
And that's very, I think that's very hard. Like in my quest and many of our quests to like make people feel comfortable, sometimes we make other people really, really uncomfortable. And like,
For sure. For
there's
sure.
really like, if we can provide a platform for people to be the most them, I think that the world would be a little better off if we followed that. So thanks for that idea. And as leaders, the more that you cheer somebody's growth and progress on, and the more you hold loosely to them as an employee, like the more likely they're sticking around because you're not choking it out.
Well, Heather, it's funny that you say that because one of my philosophies is cheerlead and acknowledge first, coach and guide and mentor second. Because the nature of our industry is, each service has to be perfect. You can't make that mistake. You might mess up somebody's scalp that has a skincare issue.
Yeah.
Or if you're an esty, you might, if you overmix, you don't use the right type of temperature, moisture, this, that. There's so many intrinsic things that make what we do so delicate that the artist has to be perfect, the technician has to be perfect, but then they bring that thinking subconsciously over to running the business. And I battle to get that thinking out of there because when it comes to leading people, that's an imperfect thing,
Yeah.
and we have to accept where we are and where we're not. We have to accept how we think and relate and how we don't. We have to accept where people are and not, so we can have more patience and we can be more graceful and we can understand that people are on a journey. Now, I'm not saying be resigned to how somebody is. I'm saying challenge the hell out of them to grow
Sure.
while being patient and understand that just because they don't see it the way you do, or just because it's taking them longer to get there, doesn't mean that they can't get there. And ultimately, as long as they're not making values based decisions that go counterintuitive to the values of your business, or that they're doing anything that is counterproductive culturally, or that doesn't create safety, those things be indefatigable. Like draw your line in the sand, you're out. You got to go. Be swift, right? But as long as people are leaning in and aligned with the values of your business, uh, the biggest goal is to help them have maximum effort, no matter how long it takes to get the result. As long as I see you working your ass off to get there, I'm going to keep showing up, even if it takes you that much longer to get there. You might be running the mile around that track 4 times, like we all did in high school, and you do it in 5 minutes where it takes me 12 minutes. I'm going to get there, but what's going to help me do it in maybe 11 and a half minutes is that when you're done in 5 minutes, you're there cheering me on and you're giving me feedback. Hey, don't bring your arms out, bring them more in. Little things like that are going to make me go a bit faster.
Yeah.
So to me, leaders have to be patient and remind themselves that their goal is to build a bridge over to where they are. And the best way to do that is to give yourself more time, like we talked about at the top.
Yep.
Shift your thinking about people and your expectations of them. And then, most importantly, ask questions to engage where they are.
Yeah.
Find out their why. Start with what they see in themselves. Ask questions, 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 questions. Because when you're grounded over in their world, you can then guide them through understanding how they relate to things over to where they need to be
Yeah.
to help them transform themselves. I always tell audiences, write this down. Managers tell, leaders ask. So if you're telling people what to do, you're just putting fires out and there's no lessons. But when you're asking questions and seeking to understand the thinking, then you can guide somebody to shift where necessary. And you can help them walk with you over that bridge to a new way of seeing, thinking, and acting. Critical.
I mean, that sounds a lot like, not to put a shameless plug in for this amazing book that people should read called Interdependent Leadership by a certain Steve Gomez. But it sounds a lot like the concepts in that book. I mean, how would you say what is the key to building accountability without creating unnecessary or harsh tension? Because tension is
Yeah.
necessary to grow, but like without creating fear. How would you say?
Um,
leaders can do that?
By not reacting and being impetuous in the moment. I mean, look, again, unless it's egregious behavior, somebody's showing up drunk, right? Or somebody's cussing somebody out and yelling in the back room. Like there are going to be circumstances where you have to be bold, direct, and swift,
Yep.
and you've got to stop the behavior because it's
Destructive.
horrible behavior. I've seen it happen. I've coached through it, right? Coach people through it in my years. But when it comes to shifting thinking and behavior in people, um, you you have to be thoughtful about it. So I always coach people to take 24 hours to redirect your energy because people aren't going to hear the words as much as they're going to feel what's coming out of you. So if what's coming out of you is frustration and angst and over what you're seeing, then you're being emotionally reactive. You're being hooked. You're being the bull in the ring chasing after their emotional red cape, and
Yep.
they're the matador leading at you as opposed to you leading them. So when you see a behavior that needs to shift or something that needs to be course corrected, stop, get reflective. Ask yourself, like I have a whole system in my book and I teach in my coaching sessions when people are stuck is okay, what is the behavior that is plugging you? How do you feel about it? If that continues, what will happen? What do you think? How are you thinking and relating to that person? What are all the good things that you like about them as an employee and professional? What are all the good things you like about them as a human being? Because when all you see is the issue, you forget all the good. There's 1,000 other good things this hairdresser's doing, but they've been coming in lately or recently. So now all you see is somebody who's late, and now you're judging lateness and you're frustrated. So get out of your own way. What are the things that you love about this person? Oh, well, they're amazing colorists. They're amazing at consultation. They make their guests feel so good. They're such a team player. They're okay, good. Keep going. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? What do you like about them as a human being? They're a nurturer. They love their kids. They're so open. They're so expressive. They're so helpful. Okay, great. Now we're remembering the great in this human. So you're shifting your energy out of frustration and righteousness and make wrong, and you're grounding yourself again. So now let's talk about having the conversation. What do you want for them? Want them to have a breakthrough. I want them to not be late. I want them to share what's occurring in their world to have them be late. I want to seek to understand. I want them to feel heard. What else do you want? My intention is that they get the behavior can't continue anymore and that there's accountability here. And if there is, there will be a documented write-up. Those are the next steps. Those are the results of the choices you've been making. But let's talk through what's occurring. Let's get to the lessons together and let's move to the other side. Let's put the integrity, let's put the values back in place, and let's march lockstep together again. That is a leader leading through situations. What typically happens is finger point, make wrong, frustration. And that's all the person feels. And then they're going to be even more disempowered.
They
You
shut
know,
down, build walls. They have to protect themselves from the
barrier.
delusion. And what they're
Correct.
dealing with at home, maybe it is, crippling anxiety, or maybe it's I suck at setting alarm and I'm terrible at discipline, and I hate that about myself. But you won't ever get there if you start off with that energy. That's a great point. I remember
Correct.
saying
Correct.
before, these are people to be loved, not problems to be solved. And it sounds like this is a process for looking at a person to be loved, not a problem to be solved. And
Yeah.
you know, some listeners might have heard that first little piece and thought, well, that's very nice, Pollyanna. I'm glad I get to love them, but they're late. They're costing me business. They're causing problems.
Mhm.
Okay. It doesn't mean you love them and then just enable the behavior. It means you love them, you understand them, you
No,
come.
it's
I love how you said, push pause. Unless there's a pipe that is flooding into your salon as we speak, a fire literally burning that needs to be put out, you don't have to address it the second it comes up. And that feels so difficult for an impetuous person
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like me slash probably a lot of people. It feels like, no, we need to handle this. Well, if you come at it in that energy, you're helping other leaders listen to this and go, unless it's a literal actual emergency, a fire coming at your building, you don't need to address it in the moment. Cool down. get your thoughts around it,
Correct.
get your
Correct.
headspace. Because I know, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, listeners, love, beloved audience members, this is transferable to every relationship you ever encounter, whether it's in
Amen.
neighbors, friendship, parenting, et cetera, et cetera. Um, I
Amen.
think that's just super, that's really, really empowering. So thank you for that kind of idea about looking at how do we help instill accountability without dread, fear, or blame. It's huge. I would
Yeah.
love to talk about your book, Financial Fitness, a little bit. Um,
Yeah. Key.
well, financial fitness, it's become a go-to resource for a lot of salon owners.
Uh-huh.
Um, what do you think, like in that book, what would you say, what are the most important numbers that every salon owner should be looking at weekly? What are the things that
Okay.
you, if you could say like this is the big concept of that book, if you can share that with us.
It's first of all, it's about overcoming your perceptions, shifting your thinking first, so that your learning curve is quicker because you're dialed in and empowered around learning it. You're instead of being cautious and dipping the toe in the water, you're jumping in because you're curious to see how it feels. So it starts there. Um, then it's getting financially organized, getting all the data in all the right places so that you can understand what you're looking at, then learning how to interpret. Um, Data that I want people looking at. I want you looking at your cash flow monthly. Don't just get the P&L at tax time. Get it every single month. Look at the month that was, but also look at where you at year to date, because that's a longer period of time, and that's going to be, in a business that's very cyclical and, up and down. We have a lot of fluidity. I could see 500 clients as a business last month, 600 this month. So over a longer period of time, I'm going to have a better trend to analyze.
Yes.
So yes, look at the month that was, but go off of a longer period of time to get a better average of where you are. Carve out time once a week in the quiet space and look at your data. Turn the phone off and upside down, be in a place with no interruptions and no distractions, because data is going to make you think. It's going to make you go places. Always be managing your inventory and your back bar, your retail and back bar inventory. It's the biggest way to create more bottom line cash flow. It's the most mismanaged area in
Yep.
the business. So managing to a 50% inventory for retail, managing to a 5 to 10% inventory replenishment in your back bars, critical.
What
Looking at
is
your new client traffic, absolutely critical.
okay.
Um,
Will you
and,
we go
and, and
more in depth and you said the 50% to retail and the 5 to 10%, is that what you said for
yeah,
back? Will you say what
yeah.
that in a different way?
Yeah. So for every $100 you do in retail, 50 of it's going to go back to restock the shelves.
Got it.
And then on average, you're going to pay a 10% commission. And then you're going to have 1.2% on average nationally of that money come out for payroll tax.
Yeah.
And then around 2.5% to cover credit card processing for the sale of that tube of product. So you're going to have a 36.3% profit return if you're managing everything correctly. But the one where people make the biggest mistake, salon owners do, is managing that retail ordering, replenishing the stock. They're just eyeballing it. They're not looking at the trends. They don't know what the top 30% of their products are, middle third, bottom third. So by taking more time and starting to break those things down and analyze it, you can begin to see what's selling, what's sometimes selling, what's not selling enough, which is going to help you shift your ordering so that you have the right amount and quantities on hand so that you're keeping more of that profit and making that money work for you. And if you ever come to one of my workshops, or if I'm going to coach you in the future, if I'm inspiring you, I'm going to tell you one thing. We are going to ensure that that 36.3% profit is landing in savings and being invested in money market accounts and IRAs so that you can plan for your retirement. Because what owners are doing, Heather, is they are taking that money, like they put all the money in the bank, they pay all the bills. So they're taking that 36.3% profit, and instead of saving it and making the money work for them and reinvesting in education and marketing and growth, they're just using it to pay bills.
Yep.
So they're losing the profit. So I want you to begin, I want you to get organized so you know in dollar amount what that 36.3% is. And then I want you to grow your service sales over time. 90 to 120 days is all it takes typically. grow your service sales so that the service dollar increase is paying those bills instead of the retail profit. So now you can take that retail profit and literally save it. And
Yeah.
now you're planning for those rainy days when the water heater breaks and you've got money, you've got liquidity there. You're not just sitting there waiting and, oh, now I got to, I got to dump it on a credit card and now I'm paying interest.
Yep.
So get organized and start learning your data. And I think the last number that I'll share, and it's such a big one and we don't track it enough, is new client retention. Do you know exactly? And I just asked this at the ABS show 2 weeks ago. And literally only one person out of 5 audiences that were in front of me that whole weekend knew how many new clients they saw the first 4 months of the year. And I challenge all of them. If you don't know that number, you just don't know your business. And not only do you need to know how many new clients are coming in, but how many of them have rebooked? How many of them have purchased retail? How many of them have made it to visit number 3? That's the data that you and your team need to be isolating and attacking because it does so many things for you. The people that are afraid to raise their prices because we're going to lose people, and typically we don't lose people, but we think we will. But okay, even if you lose 10 people, if you know that you're gaining 30 a month on average, 30 new clients a month on average, and you're retaining 3 of them, that means in 3.5 months, you're going to replace the 10 that left because of the price increase. So get over it and give yourself more abundance for all the hard work you're doing, right? Those new clients, that data is significant. If I'm interviewing you, Heather, a feather in my cap is, okay, Heather, I like what I'm hearing. I'm going to give you a chance. You're going to be on a probationary period the first 120 days working with me, which means you need to show up based on what you're telling me. I'm going to put you into the system and get you on the floor, but I'm going to be investing in you. We get 30 new guests a month coming into our business, of which I'm going to be giving you 25% right off the bat to help you grow. So those first 4 months, you're going to be in a training program to assimilate and integrate into this culture so you can stick the landing and we together can stick the landing, because I'm
Yeah.
not going to invest my money and time and give you that many people a month if you're not giving me the effort that you're telling me in the interview process. So are you ready to show up with me? That is data driving a conversation. That's a powerful place to stand. So, hey, owners, get yourself more time, shift your thinking, get hungry to learn and grow and give your business the attention that it deserves, because it does. And your team needs you to do that. They're putting their career and livelihood in your hands. So I say, in me wrapping up my time here with you, Heather, I'll say this as my closing summation in the most empowered way I can, everybody. How dare you not, as a business owner, put everything in place to support the business to keep scaling, you to have time and balance to run it and be thoughtful about it so that you can guide people to have the best career they ever dreamed possible because they were a yes to being with you. Get out of your own way and start taking the methodical, slow, patient steps to get there, because this isn't a quick fix. I really appreciate that you have me here today, Heather. I'm all fired up. I have a coaching call in 20 minutes. I can't wait to be on now. I feel bad for them.
They better, I don't know who they are, but I better text them real quick and be like, Steve is coming in hot. And do you know what? You came in hot. You started with a bang, went out with a bang. I've got to say, you've got a book coming out, The Service Cycle. When can that be expected to drop?
Sometime in the fall. I don't have an exact date. I'm in the middle of writing the last pieces of it. But I wanted to go out and emulate it, which is why when I saw Sam at the PBA summit in Scottsdale in November, and we went golfing together, and he's like, okay, man, I'm doing some shifts and we can partner together finally. What are we doing? I was like, well, I'm writing this book and I want to do it live. I want a collision of technique and psychology of guest service. So I did that. I taught it 3 times this spring. And now it's given me more experiential context to put into the book. So now, as soon as I'm probably July, August, I'm going to really get hot and heavy and doing the final writing. Then I go into the editorial process. So sometime in the fall, it'll be dropping. I'm excited about it, though. I can't wait to bring it out.
Well, I'm excited too. That is one of my favorite programs that I teach is connection, communication, and consultation. I'm obsessed with psychology of human behavior and connection. It's my other hobby that I don't have a degree in, but I am obsessed with it. So I'm very excited to get
Amen. Me
very excited
too.
to get my hands on it. Will you be at Data Driven in Nash or
No, I won't be at Data Driven. It's one event that I won't be at. I need to take some healthy time away for myself.
you have to
So
sleep in your own bed once or twice a year. So we're
yeah,
gonna miss each other at my event off is PBA or not PBA, it's premiere, and yours is this. So dadgummit, we're gonna miss each other, but hopefully in Scottsdale, the
yes,
executive summit, I'll be here. You're my neighbor. I don't golf, but I'd love to buy you a drink and have more conversation. Definitely
yes,
would
yeah. Really, really great connection, Heather.
would
Thanks
love
for
to
having me.
back on to talk about that service cycle when you're ready, because I think that that's going to be an incredible book that will change the game, especially hearing about that collaboration. So cannot wait to hear more if you'll join us again. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your busy season. Thank you again for carving out time for us.
Yeah, you too, and thank you for what you're up to and creating a medium for people to share their passions and to inspire people to think and act differently. And that's what we're here to do, everybody. So make sure you do one thing that you learned from today's session this week. One thing and then let Heather know about it. Okay. And tag me as well so we can celebrate you doing one thing different so that Heather knows that this medium that she created and has poured her heart into is making a tangible difference out there. Motivation's great, but transformation's better, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Heather.
And we're going to link in the show notes where you can find and work with Steve. And we're really, really excited to hear more from you. So thank you again.
Cheers.